thought I was that mean.
No, terrible.
I was a horrible human being.
But I mean, most of it was outwardly focused. Most of it wasn't focused towards us, but it was just
right, because you guys were my in group or whatever, and then everybody else was the out group. I remember going like downtown and then just like trying to make people mad.
I remember watching you do that, or hearing about the stories later.
Yeah.
So we kept all of our sensitive shit to each other. It's me and Derek crying on each other's shoulders.
Since we're coming clean or whatever, they weren't always guys that I was trying to make mad. Like sometimes I was trying to make women mad, and it was bad.
It's a good practice to take.
Bad.
I think. I mean, I think there's a whole like VH1 series about making women mad and fall in love with you, right? I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's like a Book of Love or something, some bullshit like that. Where it's.
Are you talking about Rock of Love?
No, not Rock of Love, but. Same principle.
Or the Flavor of Love?
No, same principle. No. This is like the. They would have this guy with goggles and like frosted tips go around to bars and like tell women backhanded compliments to like they were pickup artists is what they were called, and it's Masters of Love or Love Masters or something like that.
Some shit like that.
I mean, none of these people look like they had ever had sex before,
right.
but they damn well assured everyone that they had. And I guess that they put enough people down with cameras on them that maybe they probably got laid. I don't really know, but
that's hilarious. That principle like was predominantly explored by a New York Times journalist, I think, and Chris Ryan, PhD.com, tangentially speaking podcast. Anyway, he has a podcast with the guy that wrote that book, and like he's settled down now and he's married and he's really kind of ashamed of that book. And
so the guy with the goggles and the frosted tips, he ended up I guess having a meltdown on social media not too long ago.
Of course he did.
That's why I know all this shit, is because there was this meltdown and there was an article about it, but in his past. But
what did he have to say about Trayvon Martin too?
He had to say rambling nonsense about how they took his kids, that bitch took his kids, and basically just a long line of semi-suicidal thoughts, I guess. Not like he was going to kill himself, but
so not like Kanye or whatever.
Yeah, no, not Kanye. Oh man, I was listening to some pretty interesting stuff about Kanye going crazy. I'll have to send you the link.
Yeah,
it was. It was compelling.
I'm not as fascinated by Kanye as most people are.
No, well,
the Yeezus never really impressed me much.
As fascinated by Kanye as Kanye is. I'll say that. But yeah, he's got some good beats.
He got some good beats. I've heard that. Like I've heard that from people that I think again it was probably like Chris Ryan podcast or whatever, and he was talking about how much he hated Kanye as a human being, but he listened to his music and he actually really liked it, and he was mad at himself.
Yeah, I had much the same experience when my ex was listening to that all the time, and like all of her friends listened to it, and I on a car ride listened to it, and I was like, God damn it, this is fucking kind of good. I hate this.
Is it weird that he and that guy from Bon Iver are really good friends, apparently?
That is weird to me, but also...
Did you know that, or am I totally making this up?
I did not know that.
Oh, okay, but I'm probably making it up. Never mind.
No, you know what? It kind of tracks.
It kind of tracks.
I'm not gonna weigh down 100%. I'm not a scientist, but as a scientist, I will say that it kind of tracks.
Fits
the bill, because that guy is also just as weird. As far as I can tell,
he seems lovely and bizarre.
So I buy it. Yeah. I was also listening. Yeah. Are we on? We're on.
Yeah, we're on.
Okay.
I just said fuck it.
We were on. So I was doing on the way over.
We were having good conversation, and then
about how terrible.
And we exactly. And
I'm supposed to be taking notes right now, but hey,
we're just fucking started because the conversation started. So we might as well start the cameras.
Fair enough.
I'll decide if we can clip it later.
I'll put a little dovetail on last week's. I'll put quotations around weeks because it's been many weeks, but
it has been. We were going to do it last weekend, but we had democracy, and it.
Yeah. We went caucusing. It was great.
We did.
I was pretty enthralled by the whole process.
I caucused hard, motherfucker.
My caucus was thoroughly delegated. I'll tell you that right now. Thoroughly. So.
Yeah.
I was really surprised by the turnout, especially in Eudora. Is that where I went?
Yeah.
Eudora, that's where I went.
Yeah, he went to a little bitty tiny town.
But man,
that he doesn't live in. To caucus.
Yep, because I live.
Which is weird.
It's kind of
because you live on the opposite end of town.
Yeah, it was a little
from
annoying.
That town.
Yeah, it really wasn't close at all.
No, it wasn't.
Downtown was thoroughly. It was as thoroughly as my caucuses were delegated. Downtown was closer. So
that's true. That's true.
Yeah. I was pretty impressed by it. I think I don't tweet, but I Facebooked pictures of it. So
I was looking to the tweeter for images of what was going on outside because I was stuck inside, and apparently the real show was outside because there was about 2,000 people that they didn't have room for inside the school.
Exactly.
So.
That was everywhere that I saw anything on was just packed in all ways towards Bernie Sanders, and I mean I don't want to say obviously Lawrence is the liberal heart of Kansas or whatever, but this was places elsewhere.
Similar things happened other places. And you know what? Haven't heard a fucking word about it on the news.
Right. No fucking landslide victory.
Yeah,
no,
they were everything that I found was about Ted Cruz's meager tiny little victory that he had.
How do you look at a Republican candidate with like a 34% approval rate or whatever, that's how you win by 34% versus 28 or whatever it was finally. But it's such a small lead, and then you still call Bernie Sanders unelectable when he's getting 80 to 70%.
I have never. And I said this on Facebook, I've never seen anything like that before, and I don't think anybody has. Not anybody my age or younger.
Sure.
Maybe some shit happened during the Depression that I just don't fucking know about. But I've never seen that.
It is both heartening and really disheartening that there's no comment on how crazy that is.
And I fucking I hate going back to this shit over and over again because I feel like a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, right.
I feel like I'm just whining or whatever, and stuff like that. Definitely. But I've seen this shit with my own eyes, and I've seen images from. The same thing happened in Maine yesterday. That happened here on Saturday.
Yeah.
So there were just extraordinary voter turnouts, and almost overwhelmingly for Bernie Sanders. He won. I think his margin of victory in Maine was actually even more than it was here. And here it was he got 24 delegates or something like that, and she got 10.
Yeah, it was.
And I think in Maine he got 26 delegates, and she got
how is that not commentable? Just on
because if you don't raise it, I don't know. The full blown fucking conspiracy theory. I'm just gonna come fucking. This is my tinfoil hat moment. This is what's gonna happen. We don't mention it, right?
Let's do it, dude.
We're destroying our mascot.
All right.
But anyway, so
God damn it! It's not even. They fell at the exact same time. That was perfect. All right, go ahead.
But if you don't mention it now, then later on, when the superdelegates override the decision, then there's not going to be anything for people to talk about.
Well, okay.
But
so fair enough on that. I did see a really cool guy on, I want to say it was Fox News.
Are you throwing pennies in my corner?
Probably.
My wife's corner.
I don't have any need for them. But anyway, this guy, I think it was on Fox News, and he was talking about, he was being interviewed about basically how when you add up all the superdelegates and all that shit and where it all stands right now, Bernie Sanders is hopelessly behind. That's what Fox News or whatever this news outlet was saying. It might have been like, I want to say it was Fox. That sounds like something Fox would say. But the point is that the guy actually stopped the interviewer and was like, whoa, you guys need to present that information a little differently. I don't like how you're doing that because you're suggesting that the superdelegates would go 100% against what the population would want, and like I have that like conspiracy feel of that too, where like I believe that they totally would do that, but they've never done that in the past. Like they've actually always gone mostly towards where, not every one of the superdelegates, but mostly towards if the population is leaning one way or another, if there is a strong enough lead that way. The argument the guy was presenting was that would just fucking tear apart the like Democratic Party basically if these superdelegates just totally ignored whatever was going on.
Yeah,
I believe like that there's like a kind of subtle like let's not talk about it kind of conspiracy, but that would be pretty amazing to see if you saw like most of the normal delegates going one way.
And I like and I hate the word conspiracy.
Understandable.
I'm sorry,
especially when you say
I had a moment where my language got turned off for a little bit.
Well, it's good that you referred it to the voice of a person without language.
Exactly.
Yeah, go ahead.
What were we talking about? We were talking about superdelegates, and we were talking
going
about
against
like I don't necessarily think it's a conspiracy. I think it's as much as it's probably more likely just like a bubble.
Yeah,
like
fair.
There's no way this guy can win. We're not even really going to mess with him.
Yeah.
Here's these stories happening in the Midwest. Oh, that's just a fluke. You know, he was always supposed to win those states. He was always supposed to win the most conservative state in the Midwest, which might as well be the most conservative state in the world.
We are fucking bafflingly conservative. Like I mean, I just read there's that saying, Kansas votes against fucking its interests all the fucking time, and they just basically closed down schools.
Yeah, our schools aren't going to open in the fall.
Schools, which is cool. My argument was because now we're allowing concealed carries anyway, so no one will be shot.
No one will be shot.
Carries, but
all the people that are concealed carrying are not going to be in school anymore.
So what are we going to do? Well,
so they're going to go.
Well, they were going to learn responsible gun ownership at school. I'll say that. So.
Yeah, that's fucking true. But our schools aren't opening in November. That's really awesome. But I mean, like the idea of back to the point that we were kind of talking about. I think we're just going to make this about elections.
We can.
I think we are. Because I think we're probably...
we're going.
Yeah, we're about a half an hour in. We might as well just make it about elections.
All right.
No, we're not that far in. I think we're about 15 minutes.
Okay. Might dovetail illegal shit in the end.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
We might. We'll see.
Probably won't.
But, I mean, like... By one logic, I guess there was an idea that he was supposed to win the Democratic election in Kansas because he's, I don't know, it's a predominantly white state.
And he does surprisingly well with
better in the white
folks. And I don't know that I quite understand that. Yeah, I don't know what.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with, with the Clinton name attachment with, sort of like a pop culture reference.
I mean,
because we talk about Bill Clinton as being the first black president or whatever.
I'll admit, I'm
not exactly sure what
I don't know how I feel about Bill Clinton, to be quite honest, because there's one part of me that there's some number of things that he did, just like every president has done so far, that I thoroughly dislike.
He gets romanticized a lot.
But yeah, I have that romantic view of him, and it's weird to me, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because it's some of the stuff he's done after office has fed into my view of him in office, because I know my view of him in office isn't quite accurate.
Yeah.
But I have that, it's fucking Bill. It's fucking Bill.
I was still, my parents... I mean, I've said this. I'll tell anyone who'll listen, basically, that my parents are super conservative.
Yeah.
And I was a child of Reagan. Like, I was born in 1980.
Right.
You know, and so my parents always hated Democrats and Bill Clinton, and I was 14 at the time. You know, what the fuck did I know? So I didn't. I don't have any factual memories of the political environment at the time.
Well, I don't think anyone has very many factual memories of the Reagan environment, because I've heard.
I do remember. I think oddly, I don't think my parents cared that that Bill Clinton cheated on Hillary, though. That is kind of odd.
That is kind of odd, because that's usually what people, that's what my mom latches onto, like, more than anything else, is whatever he did.
But really, we never really like latched onto that shit until, or nobody ever really talked about that shit until Gary Hart.
Yeah.
In like 89 or whatever. I think that was when the big reveal about him being kind of a ladies' man or whatever, when he was running for president.
Yeah, I actually thought.
And he was supposed to win the presidency.
Yeah.
Over Bush Sr.
Yes.
But he didn't, because they decided to run a story about him cheating on his wife.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like, it ruined his campaign. It ruined everything, and almost overnight.
But didn't he? But then, that's interesting.
I don't remember anything about it, so I could be wrong. Yeah. But like, I heard a pretty thorough sort of news story about it, about the end of his campaign, and
so I mean, but that's kind of the reason why you think that because he cheats on his wife. Is that why black people vote for Hillary Clinton?
Because she's been cheated on, just like me.
Did I connect these dots correctly?
Just like me.
No, I mean it is. I don't know. I don't understand.
Fucking terrible.
I know. I don't understand why I'm this bad. I just don't get it. I mean.
Well, I mean, in a way, it kind of sort of humanizes him, though, which would be something that you would think that like
Martin Luther King and stuff humanize him more. I don't know. Maybe that's.
Oh, it makes him an activist, and we've been afraid of activists since
fair enough.
The 30s.
Yeah, those goddamn activists.
Since the very first rise of the.
Okay, well,
commies.
fair enough. That was probably a foul move on my part. I'll take credit for that sidetrack into slightly questionable territory.
That's all right.
But I do think it's kind of. I guess maybe there's that concept of before I knew anything about Bernie Sanders, I was for Hillary only in the fact that she's a woman, and I think it's about time we have a woman president.
Right.
I don't know that I want it to be that woman president.
Right.
But fuck it. I mean, if you're given no other choices, and your only choice towards furthering progress is to elect a woman president, I get that. I was on board with that. I mean,
I think if Elizabeth Warren had run, Hillary Clinton's campaign would have been dead in the water.
Yeah, fair.
I think if she had announced that she was running, Hillary would have.
It is a draw. I saw an article not too long ago about how, and I mean, there's been a lot of backlash on this article, but it was about how if you're a woman and not voting for Hillary Clinton, you're basically betraying your gender, and I mean, I think there's a fraction of that going on. I don't know that. I don't know. It's
yeah, but I mean, and it's controversial to say this, but Hillary hasn't traditionally politically been that strong on women's rights.
No, she certainly hasn't. I mean,
she's done some good stuff, right? But
and there was a really when I was in caucusing, there was this woman who was speaking for Hillary Clinton, and they did their little spiel, and she was very compelling.
Interesting.
She hit all the good notes of Hillary Clinton, and I was like. And we, even as Bernie Sanders people, were clapping for the things that she did, because she had done some really cool things in trying to use diplomacy to work towards some democratic solutions in international territories, some women's rights issues, not in the United States, but in foreign countries, and like to that I give her credit.
Yeah,
like, that's great. I don't know that that's the reason you should be voting for her, though, because I don't know.
Yeah, but also like whenever they're talking about Clinton on foreign policy, there's usually like military involved.
Yeah, well, and so
I mean, because if you think about it, kind of our situation in the Middle East is sort of her fault.
Yeah, well, I mean, as much as, like, to be fair, like that was a mess that was going on for a while and would have been going on no matter who was there.
Well,
with the exception of Bernie Sanders, of course. No, I realize that there's not. I mean, I kind of buy into that idea of like presidents are limited in power, and like the people that work for them obviously have some power, but those people are probably limited in some power too. It's all bureaucracy that runs itself to some extent.
Yeah, and we've talked about that before. My language.
Language.
And then that makes me forget what you were talking about. You were talking about foreign policy.
Foreign policy with Hillary Clinton. Maybe
with Hillary Clinton.
Not that it wasn't her. Not that she didn't play an active role.
But she's got a plan that doesn't really involve a lot of peace.
Fair. Well, so I mean,
and she's got a plan that doesn't really involve us like becoming less involved.
And that was the twist right there, is that this woman was bringing up, who was speaking for Hillary at our caucus. She was bringing up all of the non-military things that she had done, all of the diplomacy, even with some like strong-arm military things in the background, but she was leaving out all the other stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can cherry pick that kind of thing and find a good solid ground to make one statement argument on to get people to vote for it, which I don't even know why people...
I think Hillary's biggest problem, though, is for the most part, a lot of people got to know her in 2008.
Yeah.
And they decided not to vote for her then.
Yeah. I mean...
Like I did. I decided not to vote for her.
Yeah, I mean... I was watching... so Sarah Silverman was on Bill Maher, and she was making the same argument that I kind of feel like I felt like when I first heard that Hillary was running was, if there's no other options, that's a good option.
Yeah.
Just because it's something different. It's something that opens that door for further options.
She is at least competent.
Yeah.
I will give her that.
Yeah. And
for sure.
I mean, there's definitely an argument there with her ability to work within the system that I personally think is pretty fucking broken.
Yeah, she doesn't want to fix it either.
Yeah, and any statements that she's made otherwise is very, very small time scale. Like, she's been making this statement since Bernie Sanders has been making this statement and getting attention. And I mean, like, there's that kind of, the outsiders impacting the... the primaries especially. I don't know how it's going to play out. I mean, obviously, if fucking Trump or Bernie Sanders gets, put into that, it's going to take it into a whole other level where you're going to be needing to appeal to the majority of Americans, not just the kind of outsiders and stuff like that. And I think that Bernie Sanders has obviously demonstrated that he does appeal to a lot of Americans who are very frustrated. But yeah, I mean, she's obviously part of the system that
he's running against.
Yeah, and I mean, when you run against someone who is against that, then you automatically become more liberal because you have to match them. And so I think that's why we've seen a lot of switching with her statements. It's not particularly compelling to me. I guess I feel like it's
she does not. Well, I mean, and that comes up in poll after poll, is that, like, what's one word that you would use to describe Hillary Clinton, and then that word ends up being dishonest.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, when that she fucking got asked whether she could be honest to the American people or something. Recently.
Yeah, and she dodged the question.
Not even artfully dodged the question. Incompetently dodged the question, which is surprising for someone who I do find pretty competent.
And she's a polished practiced motherfucker too.
Right, like, right. Which
there's absolutely nothing inspiring about watching her talk, except for some reason the gays love Hillary.
That's interesting.
It is really interesting. I don't know if that's actually true.
I didn't actually know that. We had.
I don't know if that's a thing. So if it's not a thing,
probably
don't get
a dick. So don't.
I think we talked about that in the beginning, right?
Right.
There's probably still some of that left over.
Yeah, for sure.
No, but
I mean, we had a lesbian couple speaking for Bernie Sanders at our thing, so I assume that's pretty blunt. That's terrible. I'm not going to say that. I'm a terrible person. I'm just trying to make you look less terrible right now.
You should save your own face. I'll take care of this.
Yeah, that's probably good.
Or they will.
That was a.
Actually, if you would like to take care of this, that's fine.
Yeah, fair.
No.
So
at Clickbait Pod.
You know what? You let's get back. Let's charge on past this. Mindfully charge on past this. You made a pretty interesting post not too long ago. At least I thought, and I mean it's something that I've thought as well, but I thought it was pretty concisely said. But you were talking about how Donald Trump is not necessarily the thing to be
afraid of.
Yeah, and I fully agree with that. I think that he's.
I just polished that off, so you're gonna be stuck with an oatmeal stout when you finish that.
Yeah, that's fine.
You want one?
Yeah,
might as well. Yeah.
Talk about Donald Trump. I think I'll take a beer.
Yeah, let's take a man fucking beer, and drink it like a fucking man.
But so yeah, what's lay out your thoughts on that.
On Donald Trump, that he's not the thing,
the worst
to be afraid of.
Yeah.
Because he's a showman and he's playing to the room. Right. So and we didn't really like every single episode I've meant to like ask this question at the beginning for a little spiel bit whatever
spit is
the
correct pronunciation of that.
So but I never have. So like my joke was always going to be, do you think Donald Trump's really running for president?
Interesting. Yeah. Well, no. Yeah. I think I read something. Maybe it was you who said it. I don't know.
It might not be.
That like Hillary Clinton had hired Donald Trump to pretend to run.
That is one of my favorite conspiracy theories going today.
It kind of
it does kind of track.
There's a firm track to be laid.
Yeah, but no, not necessarily that, but to be like, just to acknowledge the fact that sort of since the beginning, I think a lot of people have been thinking, okay, when is he going to come out and go,
just kidding, guys.
Just kidding, guys. Or like, I think Tom Segura was talking about this on one of his podcasts or something. Maybe it was on Rogan or something like that. But he was talking about how he thinks that, once you get into... once you get a little while in and then he starts to sort of lose popularity with the media, or like the party picks a different person to try to focus on or whatever, right. and he stops, basically when he stops getting attention, or when the attention that he's getting becomes too when people stop paying attention, I guess. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. When that starts to happen, then he's going to say that he's leaving the race because of some sort of family issue or whatever. Like he's leaving because of some illness or, whatever. He's going to always... And then that way, as soon as this whole thing blows over, then in 4 years, everybody's going to be talking about when, that time that Donald Trump could have been president.
Okay.
Or whatever.
I got you.
And so that was just going to reinforce like his name or whatever. And I think there's a lot of something to that, except for the fact that he hasn't dropped out yet.
Yeah, well, he hasn't.
Because...
Well, I want to say like he hasn't done necessarily well, because he has actually dropped pretty significantly.
He's dropped significantly.
But he's continued to maintain the like initiative of attention. And maybe, I mean, if that's what you're after, there's no need to drop from that.
Should I mention that the establishment is only slightly happier about Ted Cruz than they are about Donald Trump?
I mean, I guess for once I'm in agreement with the establishment here that maybe they should be just slightly happier, or actually, to me, more horrified, because I actually think Ted Cruz is I think terrifying person.
The fact that the media is not controlling Ted Cruz, I think, means that Ted Cruz is really as bad as it seems like Ted Cruz could possibly.
Yeah,
be.
he's a
true believer.
Exactly.
So
he's
that was back to answer your actual question a few minutes ago. Is I think that Donald Trump is playing to the room. Ted Cruz is that fucking room.
Yeah, and
he's been with Donald Trump on every issue, on every hateful fucking piece of shit thing that he's ever had to say.
It can be exciting, I know.
And then, right. But he's a true believer. He really, really he's got all the, homophobia, the hatred of women. He's got all the fucking anti-immigrant, anti-minority, anti-poor people sentiment that Donald Trump has. But he really feels it, really means it. Like, his hatred is personal to him,
and he's been working for it.
He's been working, building for this moment. I mean, this isn't a lark for him.
Exactly. This is not.
And his dad always told him that God, it was God's mission for him to become president or whatever.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Or at least that's what Cenk Uygur says all the time. He always talks about how Ted Cruz's dad always told him that God had destined him to become the president in the United States.
I'm all for drive in a person's life, I guess, but anyone who has God's mission in his heart, it kind of scares me a little bit.
It does.
That removes accountability to actual human beings that you're living with, and that's troubling to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, well, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so we talked a little bit last time about, I think it was last time, it's been a while now. Sorry, it's been a while since we got an episode out. But, we were talking about how, or I was talking about, I don't know what the fuck you were doing.
I don't remember anything that you do ever.
I was talking about, the fact that in this country, voting is sort of is an extremist action. Right.
Sure.
Because we don't encourage voting. We don't encourage knowledge, understanding, or activity within the political process. Right. It's a spectator sport for us.
Didn't I read something about a country that voting required?
I don't know.
I feel like I read something where there's a fundamental a punitive action
if you don't vote.
I
think that's great.
Exactly, right?
I'm not normally for more laws, but god damn it. No, here's the deal. First off, before we start, legislating, the legality of not voting. Okay, because I mean, you can vote to not vote. Right?
Sure.
And that was always my bullshit excuse for every time I didn't vote. I was voting not to vote.
Honestly.
But none of these people were what I wanted. That's true. None of these people are ever entirely what we want. I don't necessarily know if Bernie's got the right stance on GMOs. We disagree on that. Do I think that he's more likely to listen to me than anybody else is?
Well, yeah.
I do.
I would say that almost 100% more likely, just because...
Do I feel like my voice is going to get drowned out in the sea of neoliberals?
Probably so.
Fucking screaming out, Monsanto! But so anyway, liberals, I'm picking on you. I'm one of you, and I'm picking on you because if we don't fuck with GMOs, then in 50 years we aren't going to have oranges and we're not going to have bananas. So we should have bananas.
Everyone
and oranges. Oranges. Everybody needs citrus. Citrus is good for you, and it's high in vitamin C.
That is true.
Helps your immune system and stuff.
I'm not a scientist, but as a scientist, I agree with that.
I agree also. Clink. What were we talking about before I started?
You were asking me a question about previous time.
Oh, so I was talking about how elections have become an extremist action.
Right. And your question, sir?
Do you think that's true after what happened this weekend? What's your perspective? Well, okay. Did you think that was true to begin with?
I would say that I felt like yes, I felt like it was true to begin with, and I'll say because most of the time dialogue, when it becomes the only people who seem to have time for these sorts of things are the people who care way too much about these sorts of things.
Right.
The people who don't have much else to do.
Yeah, there's a filtering process that has really gone into,
and so you're
which I think is, God damn it, I think is honestly why. I think the reason, the rational thinking and the understanding that something's not quite right has been prevalent within the urban centers of Kansas.
Sure.
But I think that vote always gets drowned out because of gerrymandering and things like that. That like these rural folk, which I'm not putting down, I'm kind of putting down the fact that that we still in 2016 we have portions of the population that are relatively unconnected with the outside world.
Sure.
So the urban centers reflect the larger ethos of what's happening in the world now, and then you have this sort of, you have these people in western Kansas and in those rural districts in the state that have really been, despite the fact that they're the lowest percentage of the population, they've been dictating the legislation.
Right.
Because, they get so and so many, delegates based on their districts or whatever.
Right.
Despite the fact that their population is insignificant compared to the 2 or 3 major population centers in the state.
Which is worth a fucking discussion, to be quite honest. I mean, I think everyone's aware of.
I understand that it was designed that way. Well, okay. That the power of the rural vote was designed that way so that rural communities wouldn't be left out by larger cities within the nation. But there's no rural America anymore.
Right.
Okay, there's rural places and there's rural
for America.
There are rural people, right? But I mean, at this point, is there any place in the United States that doesn't have internet connection, cell phone service, things like that.
Rare if there is, I would say.
If there is, it's Western Kansas, but
but should that, I mean, as an increasingly interconnected world,
right?
Should that have as much of a say?
My point is, at this point in time, we are becoming less geographically disconnected from the rest of the world.
Right.
Like the whole world is becoming a flat plane that everybody can read like a newspaper at this point.
Exactly.
Well, the whole world, at least what's on the surface.
Yeah, definitely, and have relatively close to. I mean, considering what we used to take to travel, instant travel between places, it's very easy, very cheap compared to what anything used to be. This is not a world that allows isolation anymore.
Yeah.
Be it in a country itself.
You really have to make a concerted effort. You have to be like Ari Shafir, and you have to get rid of your smartphone and go back to a flip phone.
Yeah, and which I had.
Like you're on Star Trek or some shit.
And I did have one like 2 years ago, but it was great. It was great until I got an iPhone and can now look things up all the time.
You know what? Okay, so this is easy for me to say because I don't have friends, and I'm an agoraphobe, and I never leave my fucking house, right?
And
so,
as we previously discussed,
this is a window for me into the rest of the world.
Yeah.
That I wasn't going to visit anyway.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's actually like my position on the interconnected world is largely positive.
Sure. Well, I mean, but if you do have, if you have a say in a large entity as is the United States, should you be able to stay that disconnected as some places. I mean, if you're going to get to keep the big say, as these rural states or rural parts of states have, do you really have the right to stay disconnected? I guess is kind of my thought on that.
Do you have the right to stay disconnected?
Like, if you want to keep your say, your ability to determine an election outcome, or ability to determine wider policy in a minute way. Granted, I mean, it's not like people come to Western Kansas to ask them what they think about international policy. But if you're putting people in power,
what do you think about Israel?
Right. Yeah, but if you're putting people in power, and there are places in this country where you are getting that slant of lower population but greater delegate votes, are you really in your own right to do that and still stay disconnected and not have
if you don't participate in society, do you have the right to decide
what's going on
your
door? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
that's a valid point. Well, that's a valid point philosophically. From a practical standpoint, I don't know how you make kids go to recess.
Sure. Well, my thought isn't you make kids go to recess. You take their fucking privilege of recess away. You give them 5 minutes like everyone else instead of giving them the 15 minutes that they're ordained by archaic laws that we have from our Constitution. That's my thought on that.
Recess is archaic laws from our Constitution.
We're being metaphorical here on recess.
Sorry. Yeah.
We're speaking of delegates.
I was really talking about recess.
No, I was talking about recess too. I'm always talking about recess, but this neither here nor there. But yeah, like if that is your prerogative to not be a part of that, as you probably should be, if you're voting for people who, and I mean, here's the thing though, because I have opinions on who people should vote for, and I have opinions that especially in Kansas, I mean, if you're closing down schools, you're doing something wrong.
Right.
Like, there's a clear...
I'm fully aware of myself as an extremist.
Yeah, right.
So like, I do recognize an objective role for a balance that counteracts my beliefs.
And that is a useful thing to have, because if you don't...
I've never said that before out loud. So if anybody talks about this, podcast as being overtly liberal or whatever, I understand that I am liberal. I understand that I am a bit of an outsider, and that the world in general, in practical terms, could use a voice that counteracts mine.
For sure. And I fully...
Which is, I guess, I think that ties in with my sort of understanding, or with my feelings about free speech, or whatever, I guess. So, like, I don't know, I kind of take a bit of a conservative... Wait. Let me choose my words there very quickly.
I mean, you're free to say whatever you want.
Well, so. No, I mean, like...
Sorry. Go ahead.
I can't believe... Okay, yeah. This is a good beer.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. Yeah.
So, free speech, like, I don't know. I take a pretty hardline stance on that.
Okay, what's your hardline stance?
My hardline stance is that free speech all the time, everywhere.
Okay.
Like, I don't care what you're saying. If your free speech is not... So long as you don't think that your right to swing your fist doesn't end at my face.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
Okay, so if your free speech is not causing harm, say whatever the fuck you want. That's the thing right there
is causing harm. What if it's moving people to cause harm?
Harm's a tricky word.
It is. Well, and like my personal opinion on that is probably I don't have the
let me
you need to be focusing on the people who are actually causing the harm.
Let me hit this from a liberal perspective, and I say that riot, and I mean the violent shit. I mean the shit that gets nasty, where shit gets destroyed. I think a lot of that sort of falls in the realm of free speech.
Okay, interesting.
Not a lot of people are going to agree with me on that one, and from a logical perspective, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I recognize that. I acknowledge it.
Well, that's why we got people to balance your opinion.
That's exactly right.
Fair.
That's why you need as large a, because we've talked about sort of the like, okay, so if you ask a crowd of a large enough amount of people to guess the number of jelly beans in a jar, the people that are way the fuck out of the middle and like not even get the guy that guesses 5 and the guy that guesses 10,000 or whatever, they're gonna cancel each other out.
Sure.
Right. I believe in that. Okay. I believe in the wisdom of the crowd in that respect.
That's interesting because I mean, you certainly, I'm sure that you've certainly heard of like
and science backs me up on that. By the way, ask people
insanity of the crowd. Ask the illogical nature.
The insanity of the crowd is an interesting phenomenon, and I think there's a balance that happens there. But I think there are certain things. Generally, when people reach a point of frustration that results in riot, in political riot, by the way, I'm not talking about your fucking soccer riot.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm talking about Rodney King. I'm talking about fucking Ferguson. I'm talking about like that shit. That is where society has come to a breaking point, and at that point, the riot itself becomes sort of a temper tantrum of society.
That's sort of the argument. I mean, I guess that
it's not pretty.
Well, exactly.
Riot's not pretty.
I mean,
it's not pretty. It's not safe. But it fucking happens.
Is that there are release valves to be pulled when
it is a failure. It's a release valve from a failure that has occurred,
and then
it generally doesn't reach that point unless there is some underlying cause. Right. So it's an expression. It's a temper tantrum of society, which I say that not as a degrading.
No, on that level, I fully agree with you. I mean, I don't know that. It's a tricky topic because obviously there are people that can get hurt in that kind of situation.
Yeah, and I'm never in favor of people getting hurt.
But at the same time, I mean, if people are getting hurt anyway from whatever symptom they're rebelling against.
Yeah, there's probably some measure of cost-benefit analysis that goes on there. I mean, there was with the civil rights movement. Obviously, suffering was at a high enough point that people were willing to risk. They were willing to risk going to jail. They were willing to risk, getting beaten up by the cops.
Right.
And so on and so forth. What, did you get a little foamy?
Yeah, a little foamy.
So I poured in my glass.
That's a clever move, guy. That is the clever move.
It is. I should probably actually. I am more drunk than I thought I was going to be, which is actually good. And it probably explains why this podcast is going a lot better than I had originally
It's going better in your head. I'll say that.
Well, I mean, for the fact that today has been basically a really crappy day. This has been kind of fun.
It's been a pretty crappy day for me as well.
I got my first grad school rejection letter today.
Ooh, nice.
So technically, I should actually be in a little puddle right about now.
Yeah, well, I mean, you gotta. How many times did we send
It's because of the healing power of intoxicating substances.
We got so many rejection letters from sending stuff to record labels that I'm not sure that there's enough.
We never actually did that though.
No.
We did it a little.
I'm pretty sure we did one to like Saddle Creek. Maybe we did Saddle Creek. We got or we got thanks for your time.
Thanks for your time. Did we get that much? I don't think we did.
We appreciate you sending that in. That's what we got. Yeah. That's what we got.
That was more than I ever could have hoped. Should have hoped for.
Right. They received something.
They did. The postman delivered. By the way, Postal Service, a socialist institution that some people fucking hate, but you know what? I love it.
The Postal Service.
It never works.
What do people? What?
Yeah. Every time something goes wrong, people hate it.
Well, but it's
But
there's a lot of stuff that goes through the postal service. Shit happens.
Yeah. Well, has shit ever happened to you though? When was the last time you lost a letter?
Oh, well, okay. On a personal basis, no. On a work basis, the post service fails us constantly by just choosing not to deliver some stuff sometimes.
Yeah, but
on a personal basis, I've never had.
When you have people that are a little squiffy with their addresses to begin with.
Yeah, fair. Well, okay, so...
Because that shit happens where I work, too. Like, I get return mail. Like, one of my jobs is to process return mail, actually, specifically. And
I get return mail from places that I know I've sent mail, like, for the last 10 years. And they've never returned it. And then they'll sometimes, like, say, fuck it, I don't really want to.
Yeah, Adrian got something returned back from sending to her mom, but it was a weird-shaped package, and, like, I don't know. I think there was more going on with it than just, like, not able to deliver. But I don't tell that because she's my wife, and I don't disagree with my wife.
Yeah, that's a bad idea. I mean, that's her...
Because this is her house.
Yep. Those are her pennies that I put in
Those are her pennies. Yep. And this is her studio. Have I ever made that joke before? Because I've been meaning to make that joke for a while.
You said a joke. I don't know that that's a joke. I think that's just...
it's not an... It's... Well, no. So
humorous observation.
The framing... Yeah, the framing of it is a joke. No, this is my fucking wife's house. My wife makes money. I have a job that pays for... my existence. Like,
that's good.
I don't really pay for fuck else.
That's probably some sort of feminist argument.
I paid for this camera. I paid for these microphones, which is, by the way, why there is an annoying buzz on most of these podcasts that we have been unable to.
If she would have bought that, it probably would have been gone.
What's that?
If she would have bought the microphone, it probably would be gone, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if her money had been buying it, it wouldn't. Because I'm fucking broke. Because I'm a painter
and a podcaster.
I'm a painter that's not going to get into grad school to ever become a professor. Well, so the rest of my life is going to be a really long uphill climb at this point.
I mean, one grad school rejection letter, that's nothing. Honestly.
Out of 2.
You should probably make more grad school offers.
It's going to have to be next year.
Okay. Well,
deadlines have already passed. I had brought this up a while ago and we never got around to talking about it. So we were talking about super delegates.
Yeah.
Did you see Howard Dean on Twitter?
No, I did not.
And his whole debacle?
I did not see any of that. I don't twat or tweet.
But it's all over. Like, I think it was on the internet this morning. Somebody had put it on Facebook this morning when I had woke up before I went to work, and it was like the first thing that I fucking saw because it was a big fucking deal. So Howard Dean, he's a superdelegate,
right? Okay. Which I honestly
didn't know.
Aside from the fact that it's someone who can do whatever the fuck they want at a conference or whatever convention, I don't know what. Yeah. Why are you super...
We should explain... Do you want to explain superdelegates?
I would love for you to explain superdelegates to me because I don't fucking get it.
Okay, so here's the deal. So, the American political system is a little weird. So, we don't actually, like... We have the two-party system, right? And we think that that's sort of, like, ingrained in the nature of this country, right?
Yeah.
That's not really true.
No.
It became that way. And people that remember Ross Perot remember this.
Right.
So Ross Perot was this guy who came along and he was independently funded, a lot like Trump. He was the former owner of IBM.
Yeah. Okay.
Was he the CEO or was he the owner? Anyway, Texas billionaire. So he ran completely on his own money. He had absolutely, like no outside funding whatsoever. And he bought like something like a half an hour or an hour of primetime television in the early 90s and basically just told everybody what the fuck the Federal Reserve is.
Okay, good thing to know. Yeah.
Nobody knew what the Federal Reserve was before fucking Ross Perot went on primetime television and told everybody. And the whole country went, what?
Wonderful.
And he got really, really, really strong numbers running as an independent candidate, as a third party candidate, right?
Which I'm fully for more than two parties. I think two parties is too limiting to allow for any sort of divergence of. I mean, you're going to get...
I agree, and I think most of the American population does, but they don't really know that the Republican Party and the Democratic Party thought, what the fuck is going on here? And so, like, the people that had come through the system, because, I mean, most of the people involved in government are... We've gone so long. Most of the people involved in the government are people who have been groomed by the sort of two-party system, right? Yes. So independent candidates don't make it up very far. And so when their position got threatened by this fucking lunatic that from Texas or whatever,
that's telling the truth.
Like that was he was telling the truth about some shit.
Some shit.
Yeah,
good enough.
Like I mean, I don't agree with the guy 100% of the time.
Some shit like better than no truth about.
There's a little bit of truth that comes out of libertarians, but I think libertarianism is one of the most fucking dangerous things that exists or one of the most dangerous ideas.
Telling lies with truth is an interesting concept for sure, and one done in politics.
Moderate libertarians, I'm not talking about you. I understand your request for freedom and so on and so forth.
Right.
I think I've probably done my... fucking, I'm getting sidetracked again. Yep. God damn it.
Super delegates.
Super delegates. Yep. Okay, so Howard... Howard Dean was tweeting out this morning, superdelegates don't represent people. I'm not elected by anyone. I'll do what I think is right for the country.
Interesting.
That is Howard Dean's quote. And Howard Dean's quote is specifically referencing the fact that he plans on backing the official Democratic Party candidate, which is Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, despite the fact that that's not supposed to have been decided yet. But definitely is. So that's, I mean...
And the interesting point to that is to bring up the fact that the Republican Party and the Democratic National Convention, the DNC, which is what started this whole conversation and our conspiracy that ties back into the very beginning of the podcast, is that the Democratic Party, the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, is actually a private institution. Okay, that private institution doesn't have to behave according to what the American people want. They just have to behave in accordance to what the Democratic Party wants. So if you have somebody who comes along who starts talking about...
Sorry, that just seems fucking baffling to me, but go ahead. Yeah.
So, again, this is Howard Dean right here. Superdelegates don't... And he put it in quotes in his tweet. He wasted 2 characters on this.
That's important.
Don't represent people.
Yeah.
Okay? They represent the party.
Or what he believes the party is.
So, and so if you have an independent candidate, which it's easy to kind of lose track of the fact that Bernie Sanders, up until just a few months before he started running as because he realized he couldn't get anywhere running as an independent candidate. Yeah. Which is what brought me back to the whole Ross Perot thing and why
So was superdelegates like a response to Ross Perot? Or was that something that was already there?
I don't know exactly. It's recent. It wasn't built into the actual. It is somewhat recent. Whether that was 1970 or whether that was 1990.
I gotcha.
I don't know.
That seems crazy.
But it probably wasn't before 1990 though, because like Jimmy Carter was elected as a populist candidate, like. He was sort of like the proto Bernie Sanders, you know.
Yeah, and
because the fact that he got elected was sort of a fluke, which is why he kind of stands out as like the most reasonable, non-controversial sort of candidate.
Right.
There's a lot of talk. There's a lot of shit talk on.
Certainly, there is. I can't pick out as much wrong with him as I can pick out with most people.
He negotiated peace between Israel and Egypt.
Guys, making a country work is not sexy business. It is not.
That's true.
But it's not amusing. It is serious fucking business.
Yeah, he was a little bit more practical or pragmatic than spectacular, and we require spectacular people to be running.
Which scares me a little bit.
It's kind of a little bit, but again, that goes back to like. Voting is an extremist activity,
right?
And it
appeals to your extremist nature. If you're
right, so the fact that I'm voting should probably have you worried. I would say,
well, it's certainly a sign of there's.
I think of myself as reasonable when I examine my own beliefs, but I realize that there's a lot of people out there that would look at me like, and that would have perfectly reasonable arguments against my viewpoints that I simply wouldn't acknowledge. Right?
Sure. Yeah. That's original.
That's about it. We're all about truth telling.
You know what? That's probably pretty accurate. I mean, not just you, but that's probably pretty accurate for anyone that believes most of the stuff that we believe is that it makes so much sense to us that maybe nothing else.
The only way to counteract the fact that that's my point, I guess. The only thing to counteract extremism is to have involvement of everybody.
Right.
So we have to have enough middle ground that sort of
required voting.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly what I think. I think that voting. I think that
voting, but make it easier to fucking vote.
Yeah, we should have a holiday on the.
Nonsense that we don't. I mean, we're talking about determining the future of a country to some extent. Maybe not to the extent that I would like to believe, or most people would like to believe that they're doing, but we're still setting certain courses and correcting courses that we need to correct, and yet we have to work that fucking day. We have to ask off to go fucking vote. That's crazy.
Yeah,
crazy nonsense. So required voting, but easier to vote.
Yeah,
everyone.
So what do you think of Ex-Machina?
It was really good.
I promised in the last episode we were going to do a book review, or we were going to do a review.
So I thought, first off, cinematography was great. It's beautiful. Beautiful fucking film.
Beautiful. And the sound design. God damn it.
Sound design was very compelling. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I love the direction that it took. I mean, I don't know that it's...
And the fact that at the end, how many questions does it answer? None.
Pretty much my question is she deserving of her own existence that has nothing to do with these people who are manipulating her, and she's going to leave them in a basement forever? I'm kind of cool with that. I don't know who said this, but this is about like the whole because we kind of touched on AI, and I think maybe the last episode or something. Yeah,
when we were fucking around.
Talked about it. Yeah,
but like the whole idea of like is she an AI? Is what you're saying? Is that AI? Yeah, like is AI going to be good for humanity? And I said, and I keep on thinking about. I think the director of Ex-Machina was the person that I heard that said this, was that I'm not worried about the machines, I'm worried about us.
Fair. Well,
because if anybody's going to fuck up the situation with AI,
it's going to be us. That are involved with AI.
It's going to be us that are afraid of this thing that's coming. And if it comes, it's because it's fucking inevitable. Okay?
Well, there was a really compelling
we are the sex organs of the machine world.
Right. You're right. Well, there was a very compelling message throughout it that this is an emergent concept that is developing fast.
That's been kind of bugging me too lately, is that the whole notion of okay, so we assume that we have to deal on some psychological level, if we're reasonably if we're thinking about this in a reasonable fashion, if we're thinking about the evolution of mankind, okay, so we're not done. We're not done evolving by any means.
No,
we're still discarding our wisdom teeth, for Christ's sake. Like,
yes, I mean, it's kind of. I was having a conversation with someone the other night about after watching Ex-Machina about. She was discussing how the future is kind of scary to her, or something like that.
Right.
How it's this sort of unknown question and fair. We got to this kind of decision that, I mean, we live in a world that is not conducive to evolution as evolution has been developing for the last,
right, because evolution can't keep up with the rate that we're changing the world.
Sure, it can't keep up with that, and we also don't put ourselves in the challenges that are necessary to force adaptable change on a regular basis.
At this point, biological natural selection is not a factor in human evolution. Which is why we still have these fucking things.
So at this point, the only evolution you can really have is going to be a technological evolution that is basically forcing evolution along.
Yeah.
And on that line...
Either technological... And by the way, I'm mentioning this just for the people that don't... There are camps of people who are biological chauvinists, I guess.
Okay.
Which, not in a pejorative term, but like people that that believe that... consciousness is a function of biologic computing,
right? Versus which we are computers. I mean, that's the simple fact. We're machines.
Yeah, sort of. I think
we're biological machines.
As far as we know, we're computers.
Yeah, more or less.
Because one of the things that
I mean, if the universe even fucking exists at all, but go ahead.
It possibly does not with this simulation theory, but I forgot where I was going.
So
there was something that I should have been getting back to, but I've gotten distracted like 3 times since then.
So yeah, if the only means of evolution is a technological means, and your 2 options with that are birth new life, that would be, I guess, AI, or merge with that concept with humanity at some point, and transhumanism, I guess, basically.
Right.
And I mean,
even just making it so that the next step in evolution of the human race is the extension of the human consciousness into the machine world. So,
which seems pretty
and what do I mean by that? I mean that any consciousness that we create is likely to mirror our own.
That makes sense to some extent. I mean, I guess.
I mean, aside from the fact, because we talked a little bit. Yeah, we talked a little bit about the computer that Google had created that learned how to play Go or whatever, and they couldn't quite figure out how it was working, how it was learning to play the game. I think to some extent that's true, but I think the same underlying functions and the same principles behind human consciousness will necessarily get transferred into whatever we create, whatever next consciousness that we create.
I especially initially.
I'm getting super esoteric here.
But initially, I will completely agree with you on that. Whether that same existential architecture maintains itself,
right? That's the fork in the road, right? So at that point, that's where the machine world, or the machine consciousness, I guess I should say, begins to make itself distinct from human beings or whatever.
And there is so like on the terror aspect of it. I mean, there is that feeling of what is it like to not be the apex predator on the planet anymore. Right. There's a lot of apex predators on the planet, and we don't necessarily go out to kill them, like completely wipe them out.
In fact, we kind of don't acknowledge their existence until a dentist from Michigan shoots one of them that had a name.
Right. And so maybe we're going to be the tigers of, I mean, Even tigers were relevant once.
Yeah. I think apathy, ambivalence, and things like that are probably going to play a lot more of a role than we would like to admit.
Right.
Because I think the idea of there's a chauvinism that we're like, if we create a new life form or a new type of consciousness, that consciousness is going to give a shit.
Right. Well, and
I think is actually probably going to be the biggest source of contention that causes us to get rid of ourselves.
Yeah, to eliminate ourselves from the AI logical method.
Yeah. It's going to be a slow, painful death.
We're all fucked. We're fucked, but guess what?
We're fucked by our own nature.
We fucked ourselves.
Yes, exactly.
Message.
That's exactly the nature. That's exactly what I got out of Ex-Machina.
Yeah, right.
If you haven't seen that fucking movie, you should
It's very powerful.
It is beautiful. It's emotional. It's
the guy who made Sunshine, right? Is that my understanding? Yeah. And Sunshine is one of my favorite films.
I need to buy that.
Ever. That film does it for me to some extent that I can't describe.
It's the same writer. He also did 28 Days Later.
Yeah, which I always love as well.
Train Spotting? Was that he?
I think so.
Was he involved in that, or was that? Am I getting lost on a Peter Doyle type tangent?
We might be. I don't know. I was hot.
Anyway, speaking of that,
but yeah. So Ex Machina,
definitely recommend. If you haven't, Clickbait definitely recommends, and Clickbait recommends if you haven't seen it by now, you see it tomorrow, or we recommend you die
by AI.
Or whatever. I don't care how.
You can die any way you want.
Yeah, you can.
You can kill yourself.
You can pick your weapon. You can smother yourself in a pillow. You could totally...
I don't know, guys.
Okay, so before we kill this podcast, I just wanted to talk about the fact that we might not be doing too bad on time. However, I do want to talk about the fact that we were supposed to talk about policing today.
Yep.
That was what we had notes for.
Because, guys, I care about this shit.
But we fucking did not talk about that at all.
You know why? Because we got our caucuses delegated, man.
Because we did get our caucuses delegated.
Thoroughly delegated.
All right. So with that, if you guys have anything to add to this conversation, which was self-organizing and a new form of life, probably, if you really buy into that sort of shit. Anyway, if you liked it, or if you hated it, or if you hated me, or if I said something that offended you,
I know I said something.
I probably did. So if you were offended, please let me know, because I would pay for anybody to come, just talk to me. I don't get out much.
We've talked about that.
I need support, and I want to hear what you have to say. So get a hold of us on Facebook, where we are the Clickbait Podcast. You can get a hold of us on Twitter, where we are at Clickbait Pod, or I swear to God, I'm gonna fucking regret this. You can leave comments below on YouTube, and I will read them, because I have not been reading any other comments by anybody. No, we're not.
Okay.
We're not getting any comments or anything like that.
Create something just to toy with your heart.
Are you gonna fucking troll me?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna.
That's okay.
It might be.
Just don't ever tell me.
No, I won't tell you after this fact.
Don't ever let me know. If that's really you there.
Waxifer Christagner is not me. That's crazy. It's crazy guy.
You can come up with
a
better name than that.
I will. I will come up with a better name than that.
All right, so stay frosty, people. Be good Puritans, and keep your head down, do your work. And
go fucking vote if you're not voting.
Go fucking vote.
Caucus.
And then after that, just vote regular. But, you get the idea.
Yep.